Welcome to Enterprise Ireland's Big Ideas 2020 event. We're about to start, so you'd like to get ready. Matt Cooper will join us in a few minutes.
Afternoon, and you're very welcome to this, the 12th Big Ideas event for Enterprise Ireland. Now, it's a statement of the blindingly obvious that this year's presentation is different in that we don't have a live audience in front of us. But other than that, we've kept the most important parts of what has been a very successful formula in recent years. We trust that you will enjoy it as well as taking great benefit out of it. The central point of the day remains the same for us. The promoters of 12 brilliant young businesses and ideas get an opportunity to pitch, not just to win the awards on offer today, but potentially to win your support too. They have been carefully selected and they have carefully prepared to make their presentations. Now, if you have been with us before, you'll know that they get 3 minutes to make a pitch, and that's it. We're ruthless in cutting off anyone who goes over their allotted time. But we have added a twist this year. I'll be asking follow-up questions of each presenter, again with an allotted time slot so that everyone is treated fairly. The judges will take these presentations into account during their deliberations to decide on the eventual winners. And of course, we'll be revealing those towards the end of today's programme. Later, we also have a fantastic guest joining us from the United States. Irishwoman Anita Sands has enjoyed a stellar career in financial services and technology, a director of 3 public companies in the US and 2 private ones, having started from a career in physics, something that might serve as an inspiration to some of you who are watching. She specialises in leadership, and having read some of her material, I'm really looking forward to interviewing her. By the way, there's no excuse for not tweeting today as you watch this from your home. The hashtag for today's event is #GlobalAmbition, and you will have a chance as well to vote on one of our awards. But to start, we're joined by Enterprise Ireland Director Gearóid Mooney. Gearóid, how important was it to go ahead with this year's event, albeit in a different format to previous years?
Matt, it was really important because while the business environment out there has changed, the opportunities for the future are still coming along and we need to support them. Particularly if you look at the added difficulty in getting face-to-face with investors. And we can see from previous years, previous presenters have managed to use this as a successful forum to get in touch with that community. So to not do it this year, I think would have disadvantaged them in a huge way.
I suppose the only thing we're missing is the networking opportunity, but you will be able to put people in touch with each other after today, I presume.
Absolutely. I mean, these events are always really important to us, but the follow-up is even more important. So yes, we will be working and making every effort to connect business investors with the projects that are pitching today.
What has that been like this year, though, even for you, in trying to get to know or to maintain relationships that you'd already started with client companies when it wasn't possible maybe to making the field visits that you would have made in the past?
So for the cohort you're going to see today, it was probably less difficult because what people may not realise that these projects can be anything up 2-3 years or more in gestation, and we would have been working with them all along. It's probably the newer cohort that have come along this year, but we've actually hit a record number of applicants for the support in the year, which may be a surprise, or maybe it's that researchers have more time at the moment to think about what their next career move could be.
Are the entrepreneurial thing that they see opportunity at present coming out of all the chaos?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you look at a number of the projects that are pitching today, they're actually quite medtech connected.
And then maintaining those relationships. So how difficult has it been, though, in using technology to make up for those face-to-face meetings?
It's not the same, there's no question about it. The face-to-face piece always works best. But I think people on both sides of that equation are making extra effort at the moment to stay in touch. And also, I think the project plans that we've negotiated between us and the teams that you hear pitching today are always quite specific. So there's an agenda being followed the whole time, which keeps everybody connected and on track around deliverables.
Is there still the same demand for all these new products and services, given the uncertainty that we have in the economy at present?
So I actually think, again, if you look at the ones that are pitching today, what you're seeing is an awful lot more of the opportunities are arising in the medtech area. And that medtech area is even more important now than it might have been in previous years. And Ireland is in a good position to capitalise on that.
Why is that? Why is Ireland in that good position?
I think if you look at not only the growth of the Irish-owned med device industry, but the presence of so many multinationals here in the med device area for many generations back, it means that there are people who are skilled, who know how to sell those products, who know how to manufacture them. So there's a really good network and ecosystem here around med device and med products.
Although your counterparts in IDA Ireland do such an important job in bringing in those foreign multinationals, how encouraging is it to you to see that there are so many aspiring businesses and projects, particularly emerging from our third level sector?
Well, I think it's brilliant. I mean, if you look at why they're important to Enterprise Ireland, at the moment we have on the books about 130 companies that have come from this source. And at the moment they're employing 1,200 people and spending in the economy about 120 million a year. So that's why we love them. Not only do we love them though, but if you look at where they raise the money internationally after they've been through our hands, the EU love them as well because they've been putting a lot of investment into deep tech companies, and more than half of the Irish deep tech companies they put the money into have come from this source.
Okay, so we're in a position today where we're going to see 12 particular projects or businesses which are pitching for further investment. How did you go about selecting those 12? What were their special qualities, without giving anything away about one particular company, but of the 12, why did you bring them forward?
It was quite a difficult selection because we have a portfolio of more than 40 that are bubbling under at this stage. So selecting 12 is really, really difficult. But some of the selection arrives naturally because you're looking at the projects that need this most at this point in time. So it is a point in time. So that plays a huge part in selecting the ones that we want to expose to investors and the public.
Okay, and then particular qualities in addition to that you will be looking for. How much of it comes down to people? Because as we were saying earlier, sometimes investors look as much for the people as they do the actual products and services. Yeah. And is that made again more difficult by the current situation we find ourselves in?
Again, we've been fortunate in the relationships have managed to maintain in spite of the impediments put in front of us. But the people part is hugely important. I mean, we spend quite a bit of time at the beginning before we ever fund an embryonic project looking at the people piece and who are the ones that really want to do this, that it's not just another project, that it's something that they're passionate about and want to follow. And then quite a lot of the gestation period for the 2 to 3 years is spent on looking at where might the gaps be? Are there people we could introduce them to? Are there commercial people that we could bring in to augment the team and help develop the opportunity? And when you have that level of interaction over a prolonged period of time, so far we haven't really suffered.
Are there also at the moment a lot of outside investors there who are willing to come in and support things that you have supported?
There are. As I said earlier, there's quite a vibrant investment community here, both at angel and VC level. Now, of course, from our point of view, we'd love to see more. And then also over the last number of years, the EU has started to particularly look for deep tech opportunities like these represent and actually support them directly themselves.
How much are you looking forward to things getting back to normal or near normal next year? Or will you be able to continue thriving even if we have to go on with this for much longer?
So I believe we can sustain it, not forever, but I do think we can sustain it for long enough for the environment to go back to whatever the new normal looks like.
Thank you very much, Gearóid, for being with us. Now, as we're getting our 12 promoters ready to make their presentations, we want to show you a video of some companies who have pitched previously at Big Ideas. 4 are from last year and 1 is from 2018, the winner that year. We always enjoy seeing how previous contestants have progressed since they were involved in Big Ideas. So let's have a look.
Welcome to Big Ideas 2020, Enterprise Ireland's showcase for the most promising spin-outs from research commercialisation in the last 12 months. This is the 12th year of the event, where traditionally we look back on previous founders to see how they progressed since they were last on the Big Ideas stage. The 5 companies you're going to see in the upcoming video reflect the ambitious, commercially focused, research-orientated companies who work with Enterprise Ireland with a view to developing investable and innovative companies who can scale.
My name's Nigel Phelan. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Fenari Medical. At Fenari Medical, we're a medical device startup company based here in Galway, and we're developing a new treatment for chronic venous disease patients. We identified a significant unmet need in chronic venous disease, so we decided to make a better treatment for physicians to use. Myself and my two co-founders went about developing the idea into a prototype through preclinical studies, and then that led us to spin out of NUI Galway last year and become a fully fledged startup company. Current treatments use either burning or toxic injectable chemicals. Our novel insight has allowed us to develop the world's first device that utilises the body's natural healing response to close veins and cure symptoms. Big Ideas occurred at a very good time for us. It was great to get the exposure for investors and build on the momentum that we already had. We gained investment from people who were in the audience that day. Since Big Ideas, we've gone on to raise a seed round investment led by a Japanese medical device company, and then further supported by Enterprise Ireland and the Western Development Commission and some local angel investors. We've taken on 3 new staff with plans for future expansion in 2021. My advice to people pitching at Big Ideas this year is to really make the effort to follow up and reach out to as many investors and academic researchers after the event, and you never know where those conversations will lead, whether it's investment or future mentorship and advice.
My name is Louise Crothers. I am the CEO and founder of Exit Entry. Exit Entry is an AI talent technology which uses best practice science to create opportunities and allocate human talent. Exit Entry was a spinning company to DCU. We were part of the commercialisation fund with Enterprise Ireland. It gave me a great opportunity to be able to connect with other founders and open up opportunities and commercial partnerships for us.
Exit Entry is an app where students log on, they showcase their interests and soft skills, and then connect seamlessly with employers for work opportunities.
So our experience for Exit Entry since Big Ideas has been phenomenal. We launched to market last November. We onboarded new customers and we launched a second product, which was a school app, to market last May. We now have over 40,000 users. We're a team now of 10 people in Ireland and we have 5 people in Lithuania as well. We also just announced a partnership with IBM, which is hugely exciting. We're looking at new verticals around learning modules and growth within that area. The advice I would give to people pitching today at Big Ideas would just to be true to yourself, but ultimately what you want to draw down on is the opportunity that you have and the vision that you have.
We use small wearable sensors to measure lots of different performance components of off-field fitness. So we measure how powerful someone is, how strong they are, how fast they are. We also amalgamate all of that data in one source so that practitioners such as physiotherapists and strength and conditioning coaches can truly understand their athletes.
We realised there was an opportunity for wearable sensors and data analytics to really tackle the fact that sports performance testing has for so long been impractical and difficult and only available to the top level, whereas we felt if we could use wearables and high accuracy algorithms that we could scale it to a much wider audience than ever previously possible.
Sensors on Jules' foot. I just have to click here, press record, Jules will do a jump. I'll then get laboratory grade feedback on how well that jump is being completed.
Big Ideas was a great opportunity for Output Sports to showcase the technology and our commercialisation ambition. It also allowed Output Sports to engage with the investment community, which was particularly pertinent at that time as we were moving towards seeking investment.
So it's a long journey, it's a difficult journey, but it was crucial to bring us to the next level from a team of researchers to a product that's now launched and in the market.
So over the next couple of years, Output Sports looks to scale in Europe and the US, as well as bringing our technology into the hands of recreational athletes. Output Sports has released this year its first 2 products, Output Capture and Output Hub, which allows us to capture high-end performance data and amalgamate that into one source for ease of analysis.
Hi, my name is Liz McLaughlin, co-founder and CEO of Timpany Medical. Timpany Medical is a medical endoscope company and we're building endoscopes for the next generation of ENT surgery. We saw that there was a huge gap in the market for an endoscope which allows surgeons to use a two-handed technique. Subsequently, we developed concepts and prototypes and had those validated by the clinicians. They gave such good feedback that we decided to start a company to develop the product even further.
This is just the start for Timpany Medical. We believe that our technology and team will be at the heart of ear surgery for many years to come.
Thankfully, we were selected to take part in Big Ideas, and it was a great opportunity for us to build our network and our exposure to the investment and wider community. In the last year, we have been able to bring our device further through the support of EIT Health through their amplifier mechanism, which provides investment in Timpany Medical. We're currently undergoing final testing in Leiden University Medical Centre in the Netherlands and hope to submit to the FDA in 2021. We have ambitious plans to become world leaders in endoscopic surgery in the next 5 to 10 years and are looking forward to disrupting the marketplace. For anyone pitching today, my advice would be take a deep breath, smile and enjoy it.
I'm Dr. Kelly Adamson and I'm a principal investigator here in Dublin City University. Septec is a patent pending in vitro diagnostic blood test that can basically tell you if you have a bloodstream infection within 15 minutes. So my background is very biological based and biomaterials, and our co-founder Dr. Elaine Spain is electrochemical. Both of our research areas, we found if we combine them together we could rapidly and sensitively detect low numbers of cells within a very short period of time. We now have a function prototype, an actual test cartridge and also the analyzer. And it was kind of time that we needed to start going through the commercialization side of things.
Septec differentiates itself from its competitors based on speed, accuracy and reduced cost.
And one of the things was applying for Big Ideas, so we were lucky enough to be picked to do it. And then we were delighted to have won it, so it's something we never thought would have happened. So when it did happen, it really gave us a platform to be able to show off what Septec was. Since Big Ideas, we've expanded our team and we have now been able to raise the investment that will be required to move the Septec technology forward. So the long-term goal for us is just to have Septec on every shelf in every hospital across the globe. Septec wouldn't actually exist without Enterprise Ireland. To date, we're still funded by them. We will be spinning out next year and we hope that we continue to have that relationship with Enterprise Ireland moving forward.
It's really encouraging to see the progress made by these companies from a technical, commercial and investment perspective over the last 12 months. They are role models for the 12 companies presenting today and anybody else who's got a big idea. I'd like to wish them all every success.
So yes, indeed, there's the inspiration to this year's contestants. Now, for those who haven't been with us in previous years, let me explain what's about to happen. We have 12 promoters coming to our virtual stage today. Each will be given exactly 3 minutes. When my clock tells me the time is up, I will cut in immediately to stop any presentation that hasn't finished. Now, that might seem a bit ruthless, but it's being fair to everyone. And I will then ask follow-up questions too, in something of a departure from our previous years, but within a specific time limit. Our EI directors and judges here today will be deciding the one-to-watch winner, depending on their appraisal of what they've seen and heard. But we do have a second award too, and you can decide that. The Viewer's Choice Award will be announced later. You can vote in the poll where you logged in. It's that simple. But the poll will be open at the end of the 12 presentations. You can't vote yet. So let's get going and allay the tension of our 12 contestants. First up, Eddie McDade. Eddie is Chief Executive and co-founder of GallanBand. GallanBand is a medical device that seeks to reinvent mobile heart rhythm monitoring. Along with his fellow founders, GallanBand inventor Oisin McGrath and software lead Patrick Conway, the team is in the final stages of an Enterprise Ireland commercialisation fund and is preparing for spin-out from NUI Galway. Eddie, your 3 minutes start now.
Atrial fibrillation, or AFib, a deadly heart rhythm irregularity. 40% of us will develop it in our lifetimes, burdening us with a 5 times greater risk of stroke. 60% of AFib is silent or asymptomatic, thus extremely difficult to detect. Early detection is a lifesaver, as treatments vastly reduce that risk of stroke. Standard of care for detecting AFib is the 24-hour ECG Holter monitor. These cumbersome Walkman-sized devices connect wired electrodes adhesively to your chest, yielding just a 1% chance of detecting silent AFib. Mobile ECG devices, like patches and smartwatches with ECG, are power hungry and inoperable while wet. They cannot offer the 90 days of continuous heart rhythm data experts say is needed to reliably detect silent AFib. So we have a real unmet market need for long-term, continuous, convenient heart rhythm monitoring. GallanBand delivers just that. This is GallanBand, a revolutionary heart rhythm monitor which records ECG-like waveform without using ECG. GallanBand is a patent-pending Class 2 medical device and AI platform. It records heart rhythm 24/7 for up to 90 days, giving silent AFib patients an 85% detection rate versus that 1% with 24-hour ECG. Key opinion leaders are excited because GallanBand streamlines their workflow and uniquely, it unlocks new patient care pathways based on our long-term, continuous, convenient heart rhythm insights. AFib monitoring is a €1 billion opportunity, and GallanBand's clinician-centric business model will generate highly profitable and recurring revenue using established reimbursement codes. We've been generating human data for 6 months. Our HPRA-approved clinical study completes by March, and we are seeking funding to attain CE mark and FDA approval prior to market launch in 2023. Our dedicated and passionate team have a rich background in the medtech and software arenas, and I have co-founded and led 2 high-growth software platform businesses. In summary, GallanBand reliably detects silent AFib. We have novel IP, a defined regulatory pathway, a scalable business model, and a team eager to execute. We are now seeking the right partners to join us on our mission to reinvent mobile heart rhythm monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And just inside the 3 minutes too, couple of questions. Who will you be selling this to? Is this direct to consumer or business to business?
Yeah, this is B2B. It will be prescribed only by clinicians. We have a clinician-orientated business model. So it's clinicians who prescribe it for patients, and then it's paid for by the patient's medical insurance.
You showed us the band on your hand. Now, is it possible that you could develop the technology so that it could fit into a smartwatch, for example, rather than the band you showed us?
No, not really. The difficulty that smartwatches have is that, in effect, they're Swiss Army knives. They're doing a million different things at the same time. And the difficulty with detecting silent AFib is that it's intermittent and it's asymptomatic. And so with smartwatch technology, you would need to be, it would be difficult for the smartwatch to be able to give you that long-term continuous monitoring. So this is a specialist device designed specifically to monitor over a long and continuous period.
What do you know of competitors who are trying to do the same as you're doing?
Yeah, so I guess there's 2 fields of competitors. There's the ECG Holter monitors, which are, they have difficulty in detecting it, and they're impractical to wear and inconvenient. With smartwatches, they're typically using an ECG sensor, but they only work for 30 seconds at a time and they require manual intervention. So we've gone down a different road with a different type of sensor designed specifically to work over the long term in order to detect this very difficult to detect disease.
In the 20 seconds we've left, how quickly do you think you can scale up this business and make a return for investors?
We can scale up this business starting with our launch in 2023. We will break even with a modest investment by 2025, and by 2027 we will achieve 30 million in revenue.
Eddie, thank you. Our 2 minutes is up. Thank you very much for your presentation. So to our second guest, Dr. Darragh Meldrum is a Senior Research Fellow at the Academic Unit of Neurology, School of Medicine and the ADAPT Centre at Trinity College Dublin, and is a physiotherapist. She is the founder and inventor of Vertigenius, which is a new medical technology to treat the problems of dizziness, vertigo and imbalance. Currently supported by an Enterprise Ireland commercialisation fund, she is presenting the commercial opportunity on behalf of her team. Darragh, your 3 minutes start now.
Did you know that every second across Ireland and the UK, an adult has an accidental fall that can be catastrophic? At Vertigenius, we are using technology to lead the way to better balance for these adults. 1 in 3 adults has problems with their balance, and 1 in 5 of you here today have likely got dizziness or vertigo that is problematic. Dizziness, vertigo, and imbalance arise as results of disease to the inner ear, or the vestibular system as it is medically known. This system keeps you balanced and orientated. Over 18 million people will get acute vertigo or dizziness this year. Moving their heads will worsen symptoms. They will avoid this, and this will prolong recovery. But there is a solution. A specialised form of physiotherapy known as vestibular rehabilitation is 80 to 90% effective in these problems. I've been treating these patients and researching in this area for over 20 years, and I know how technology is transforming rehabilitation and how vestibular rehabilitation methods are ripe for disruption. This is why my team and I have built Vertigenius, which is a unique medical device technology for these problems. It is 3 products in one platform: a clinician portal to manage patient, a wearable head sensor to track that crucial parameter of head movement, which I'm wearing, and an easy-to-use patient application. Vertigenius is already in a clinical study in a university hospital, and patients and therapists alike love it. So patients love it because it empowers them to do their rehab, puts treatment in their pocket, is easy to use, and they're getting better. Therapists love it because it quickly delivers and monitors the programs they have prescribed. At a click, they can change a program, see how their patient is doing, and they can do this remotely if necessary, saving them time and improving care. In short, Vertigenius is their digital assistant. The primary market for Vertigenius is the 283,000 physiotherapists in English-speaking countries. A target of 3,000 of these results in recurring annual revenues of 3 million. Our model is business to business with software as a service combined with a medical device. Vertigenius is a Class 1 medical device. It is fully HIPAA and GDPR compliant. We have 3 advantages over our competitors. 1, Vertigenius has been built by domain experts who are highly networked in the field. 2, we already have the support of key opinion leaders globally, with 98% requesting a trial. And 3, we have a unique, affordable, and validated wearable sensor. We're ready to launch Vertigenius onto the market in April or May 2021. And we're seeking to generate revenue immediately, and we're looking for seed investment of 500,000 so that we can be best in class to lead the way to better balance. Thank you.
Dara, thank you very much for your presentation. You're talking about an early launch of this product and raising seed capital, but how expensive is it going to be to launch this product profitably?
Well, we can generate revenue immediately because it's a software as a service, so people can onboard and pay fairly quickly. And the head sensors will be ready probably by May 2021 as well. So they will be additional chargeable revenue.
And who exactly will you be marketing this to? What is your audience going to be?
So physiotherapists are our customers, and audiologists as well to a certain extent, and doctors as well who are treating these patients. But predominantly it's physiotherapists that
How
treat
are you going
these
to be able to reach them? How are you going to get to them, to sell to them?
Yeah, so our plan really is to launch within, it's a highly networked field, this field. So our plan is to launch in amongst the field, go to conferences, generate our customers that way.
Do you need perhaps the backing of somebody who's got experience in sales in this market?
Absolutely, yes. So we have a team of 4 of us at the moment. So we have a chief operating officer, we have a computer engineer, and we have an electronic engineer. So they're all looking after the tech and the science part of it. And then we will be looking to recruit sales and marketing over the next couple of months.
Is this a product that's aimed at people who already have had problems to try and help them monitor when further problems are going to develop?
No, it's for patients who actually are experiencing problems with balance or dizziness and vertigo. So as soon as their problems are diagnosed, we can start treatment immediately. It's a really successful treatment for these patients. So they can start on treatment straight away once they've got a diagnosis. And
you mentioned about the use of an app. Is that for the patients themselves to be able to use, or is that also linked to their clinicians?
So that when the patient does their exercise on the app, it links straight into the clinic. So the physiotherapist can see what the patient is doing, they can track. So there's a lot of fluctuation sometimes in these symptoms, and it's really important for us to see how the exercises we prescribe actually impact the patient if it makes them a little bit worse.
Dara, Thank you very much. Our 2 minutes are up. Thank you very much for your presentation. We're going to move on now to Dr. Sean Fair, who is a reproductive biologist and a founding director of Neomimics Limited, a spin-out company from the University of Limerick. Together with Declan Keane, founder of the ReproMed Fertility Group, the technical and scientific team at Neomimics have developed the world's first microfluidic-based sperm sorting technology. This innovative technology empowers embryologists to naturally select the best sperm for use in assisted reproduction. It will increase live birth rates and reduce the number of cycles couples have to undergo to achieve their goal of a healthy baby. Sean, your 3 minutes start now.
Think of 6 couples in your circle. At least one of those is likely to have suffered from infertility, and in half of those cases, the man is a contributing factor. Kate and John, both 39, have suffered 3 miscarriages. Their friends seem to have no problem getting pregnant, while they are facing into a 4th round of fertility treatment, knowing that this is only a 1 in 4 chance of success for them. So how can we help Kate and John? Neomimics has developed a novel single-use device that selects an elite population of sperm, which will increase Kate and John's chances of going home with a live, healthy baby. Our innovative Class 2B medical device mimics nature's way. It does this by stimulating sperm to swim against an active fluid flow within microchannels, mimicking the way sperm naturally swim up the fallopian tubes. Compared to the closest rival product, Neomimics' preclinical data from 30 men has demonstrated a 300% increase in key sperm quality parameters. A mouse study involving the fertilization of over 900 eggs resulted in doubling of pregnancy rates. We have technically de-risked our minimal viable product, and live and beta testing is ongoing with a leading European fertility clinic group. Early results from this work is showing a clear user preference, as our solution is simpler to use and cuts sperm preparation time in half. Our device is fully recyclable and reduces plastic use in the clinic. Our team is in place. I am a reproductive biologist with 15 years experience of fertility-related research in both the university and private sectors. Our team is led by our CEO, Declan Keane, who has established his own network of fertility clinics. We have engineering and product design capability in-house, and this is backed up by an advisory board with extensive international clinical and strategic expertise. The fertility market globally is worth 23 billion and is growing at a rate of 9% year on year. Of that, the sperm selection market is 280 million, and we are ideally positioned to further diversify into the much larger embryo culture market with our microfluidics technology. We have demonstrated our technology to 12 European and US-based key opinion leaders, and their view is that there is a clear pull to the market for our solution. Following regulatory approval by month 24, our route to market is straightforward, as it comprises of mainly private fertility clinics that are readily accessible through established distribution networks. Given our differential in terms of innovation, we are confident we can dominate the market and achieve our vision of a €100 million company within 6 years. In summary, our proven technology addresses a clear unmet clinical need, it improves pregnancy rates, and has a clear user preference. And our ambitious team are looking to build partnerships with investors who think big and want to come on this journey with us. We are Neomimics.
Thank you very much, Sean. Sean, can you just maybe in the 2 minutes we have, explain a little bit more about how you can do better than the competition? Because you have mentioned there are others who are trying to do similar work.
Yeah, so Matt, the technology was developed back when IVF was developed in the late 70s and early 80s. And the current technology is a type of centrifugal method. So it spins cells down through silicon nanoparticles, and it spins about a force of around 400 G a minute. The fastest roller coaster in the world puts a G-force on your body of about 4 to 6 G. It's a quite rudimentary technology, and our technology mimics what happens in the female reproductive tract. It's a more natural technology, and it doesn't involve centrifugation. It also facilitates automation in the clinic. The current technology is very manual, and ours is a simple 3-step process: put it on, run it, take off the sample.
If you're aiming to get to 100 million revenues in a number of years, how quickly do you need investment, and what sort of investment do you need?
Yeah, so we need investment, I suppose, now. We're ready for investment. It's a Class 2B device, so the first phase is to bring this initial product through regulatory by month 24, and then ramping up after that with that product. But we've also, other products in the background in terms of embryo culture, microfluidics for embryo culture, and we've ideas there that we want to develop that. So that ambition for €100 million company isn't just for this one product; it's the bigger picture.
But is this the particular focus? Is this, as you see it, maybe your best product?
Yes, well, for sure, it's certainly it is for now. I suppose the market is limited. I won't say limited; it's a sizable market, but there's a much bigger market in assisted reproduction that we would also target, and we need to be able to target that to I suppose achieve our ambition.
Okay, Sean, thank you very much for joining us today. Let's move to our fourth contestant. Dr. Sanantana Kanugulu Venkata Sakar is Chief Executive of Biopixis, an aspiring entrepreneur and a deep tech scientist with 8 years' experience in phantom technology. He, along with Professor Stefan Andersen Engels, founded Biopixis in 2020, a spin-out from the SFI-funded IPIC at University College Cork. Biopixis has a strong IP portfolio, cumulatively more than 30 years of experience, and a deep network in the emerging phantom market. So by creating a standardized approach, Biopixis deep tech tissues simulating phantoms accelerate device development and deployment at reduced cost, time, and animals exploited in preclinical trials. Sanantana, thank you for joining us. Your 3-minute start now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by asking you a question. Do any of you know how many animals are used every day in medical device testing? Any idea? Over 60,000. Yes, that's correct. Over 60,000 animals per day globally are pained to death in medical device testing. Despite this, only 4 out of 100 light-based devices make it to hospital. We have an emerging technology that has solution for it. It combines light and material science to simulate animal and human tissue optical properties. And we are only commercial leading experts in this technology. We have patents under filing, stakeholders network, rapid growth momentum to capture this billion-dollar market. Interesting, right? Now listen, we call this unique engineered material as optical phantoms. It can be blocks of solid phantoms that mimic human and animal tissue, or it could be anthropomorphic phantom recreating original anatomy, like this tiny brain of infant in my hand. This can replace and reduce animals killed every day at 1/10 of preclinical cost and time. It can fast-track device development by providing reproducible, traceable, and standardized approach. The total estimated market size is around $1.7 billion. We are aiming to capture 50 million in next 5 years by addressing end-to-end value chain from device development in lab, recurring calibration and maintenance services during its lifetime. Following our market fit, we look for investment in year 3 or 4 with a potential acquisition by medtech company in year 6. 30 years deep tech experience team with deep connections across standardization stakeholders, regulatory, European Commission, industry, hospital, academia, puts us far ahead of any potential future competition. Validation, we raised over 700,000 euros through grants, including emergency fund for COVID-19 and a neuroimager to impact healthcare in infants. On sales, we already have customers across 9 countries. All this just within 4 months of our inception as company, validating our rapid growth potential. With our deep tech IP portfolio, 4 trade secret recipes, number of patents under filing, initiation of regulatory pathway, we are all set to capture this emerging market. We are not just saving animals, humanity, accelerating device success at reduced cost, but we are here to change translational research forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now, 2 minutes of questions. How well do investors understand phantom technology?
Right now, they do understand because it's emerging now, and And there is a kind of buzz that, okay, will it take off or not? But the thing is, customers will respond for it. Means we having customers in 9 countries right now says a lot about its rapid growth potential and the emerging situation that makes investors very interested. And there are a lot of leads, but still we are waiting, for the right moment.
How did you go about getting those 9 different customers across a variety of different countries?
This is a very interesting question. When I did customer survey between 30 or 40 customers across the world, the first thing they said is like, if at all you are going to make a company, and many of them, they said like they would like to buy some of our devices. As soon as I was starting the company, they already, bought these devices and they have them in their lab. And they are very much surprised with how they can accelerate their device development with our Phantoms. And that's one of the reasons how we made 700,000 euros, because once they saw we have the product, they were inviting us to the proposals where we got these fundings, yes.
If you're developing a standardized approach, though, how concerned would you be that others will be able to do the same and that you won't have a unique selling point?
That's great. Means we are leading in this race. We are part of the working group for creating the standard. We were at Brussels, European Commission. And we have say in our pocket, means we have this IP that protects us, and we have the stakeholders who would look at us rather than anyone else. It will take time for anyone to capture this market faster than us.
Okay, thank you very much. We're having a little bit of problem with your line, but we are at the end of the 2 minutes, so thank you very much for that. Our next presentation comes from Barry McCann, who is the Chief Executive of Nua Surgical, and along with his co-founders Marie-Therese Marr and Padraig Marr, has developed Stericision, an innovative surgical retractor to make caesarean delivery a safer procedure. It will enable superior access and visualization for the clinician, reduce wound trauma for the patient, and reduce costs to the hospital. The startup was developed out of BioInnovate Ireland and is supported by NUI Galway, Enterprise Ireland and EIT Health. Nua Surgical is currently raising a seed round to bring Stericision to market and aims to be the gold standard retractor in what has become the most common major surgery in the world. Barry, your 3 minutes start now.
Let me repeat. Caesarean delivery is the most common major surgery in the world, accounting for 29 million births each year. However, new mums are at higher risk of hemorrhage, infection, and even death when undergoing C-section as opposed to a vaginal birth. Proportionally, these risks increase with higher maternal weight. An obese woman is twice as likely to be medically indicated for caesarean section. She has double the risk of maternal morbidity, and there's a 5-fold increased risk of neonatal injury. This is of major concern, given that today, over half of European C-sections and 2/3 of US C-sections are being performed on overweight or obese patients. And a lack of innovation in the space has left obstetricians with inadequate tools for accessing and visualizing the uterus, which is critical in all C-sections. And this is where Nua Surgical can make a real difference. We have developed Stericision, the only self-retaining surgical retractor specifically designed for C-sections. With Stericision, clinicians are enabled to safely deliver the baby, repair tissue, identify bleeds, and prevent prolonged complications. Obstetricians all over the world recognize this unmet need, and key opinion leaders believe that our solution can reduce operating time, enhance patient recovery, and increase theatre throughput. The market opportunity in the US and Europe exceeds $600 million, and we have identified multiple partnership and exit opportunities. To date, our team have secured over €640,000 in grants and prize funds, enabling us to hit significant milestones since 2018. And we're on track to reach design freeze within the next 3 months. We have filed a PCT and US patents, and our strategy is to aggressively protect and harvest this IP portfolio. We're currently raising a €2 million seed round to bring Stericision through FDA clearance and enter the US market. We have a first-in-woman study scheduled for 2021, and will commercialize in the US in 2022. Our lean approach will see Nua Surgical being profitable by 2023, and we forecast revenues of €20 million by 2025. To achieve these milestones requires a strong team, and our founders have over 50 years combined experience. covering commercial, technical, and design control requirements. We have designed Stereocision to be easy to use, effective, and distinguished from its competitors. And our vision is to become the gold standard C-section retractor, delivering safer outcomes for women and their newborns all over the world. As investors, we hope you'll join us on this journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barry. And we'll just start our 2 minutes now. Barry, as the need for this seems so obvious, are there not many other competitors looking to do much the same as you?
There aren't, Matt, and to be honest, there has been a lack of innovation in the space. Today, an awful lot of obstetricians are still using handheld metal retractors that they've used over the last 30 or 40 years in various surgeries. The only disposable retractors that are being used have been around for maybe about 15, 20 years, and they've been adopted from other open abdominal surgeries. So they aren't specifically designed for this surgery, and they aren't optimum. They're not answering the unmet need that Stereocision will.
Tell me about the partnerships you're developing. What are those partnerships in, and how extensive are they?
Well, that's really with the aim of our expansion in the future. We aim to get to the US market in 2022, where we'll conduct post-approval clinical studies at a number of US hospitals on the East Coast. From there, we'll plan on expanding through a small direct sales team, but primarily through key distributors that have a pure focus on labor and delivery. And I suppose a lot of the multinationals that are in that space could be ideal for us to expand into geographies where we wouldn't have our own footprint or foot in the door from a distributor's point of view.
And what you said in the presentation, you seem to be very clear about having a reasonably early exit strategy, do you?
I think, well, that always has to be on the cards when you're raising funds. So I suppose we've two approaches to grow neurosurgical and develop an extensive product line, but also to be aware of the various opportunities. So those partnerships and relationships that we're building with some of the competitors is really to ensure that there are opportunities for an exit in the near future.
Thank you very much, and best wishes to you. Now, our next presentation comes from Elle Sander, biomedical engineer and co-founder of Lifelet Medical. She has a passion for driving innovation that can truly impact clinical outcomes for patients with heart disease. Co-founded with interventional cardiologist Fasil Sharif, Lifelet Medical is developing a platform technology to deliver one valve for life, which will improve on limitations of current heart valve devices and offer economic efficiencies across the value chain. The team will build Lifelet Medical as an innovative leader in this arena, headquartered here in Ireland. Elle, your 3 minutes start now.
Imagine you're 40 and you've already faced up to the diagnosis that your heart is in trouble. You're glad that medical advances in surgery have given you a mechanical valve, but your quality of life is severely impacted from the tick-tock in your own heart. It's a daily reminder of your open heart valve replacement and how dependent on it you are for life. The patient in need of a new valve today has two options. A mechanical valve requires open heart surgery, blood thinners for life, and is invasive. The other option is a valve made from bovine or porcine tissue and comes with a risk of complications like stroke, bleeding, or the need for pacemaker. And as an animal tissue, it degrades in your body, so its lifespan is limited. Even with impressive advances by global leaders in valve technology, many here in Ireland, there is still room for significant improvement. The market opportunity for transcatheter aortic valve replacements alone is 4 billion euros, representing millions of patients in need of a better solution. That's why we at Lifelet have developed a fully synthetic polymer material for heart valve replacements, which combines the durability of mechanical valves with the minimally invasive delivery of animal tissue valves. Importantly, for patients and payers, our platform technology offers the promise of one valve for life. Our solution is smart and cost-effective, transcending the manufacturing limitations of current offerings, such as the need for animal tissue to be hand-sewn onto each valve. Lifelet is comprised of a strong team to commercialize this technology. I am a biomedical engineer, and my co-founder, Fasil Sharif, is a passionate clinical innovator with substantial valve replacement experience as an interventional cardiologist. Our chronic preclinical data has been well received at international cardiology conferences, and we have done extensive clinical validation globally. Key opinion leaders are excited that what we are doing solves a real unmet need. We have strong intellectual property and a network of manufacturing partners to advance our technology. We are looking for investment partners to drive our company forward and bring our solution to the patients who need it. Funding will allow us to grow our team and complete testing for a first-in-human study. We look forward to connecting so that together we can impact upon this substantial market opportunity and realize the dream for patients with heart valve disease. One valve for life.
Thank you very much, Elle. Elle, tell us a little bit more about the manufacturing partners that you mentioned there, because I would have thought that maybe they would be doing their own research to do this for themselves.
Certainly. Among the strategic heart valve manufacturers, this has been the holy grail of heart valve manufacturing, and there have been many attempts to work on it in the past. And we also have contract manufacturers within Ireland, and we hope to combine our competencies to bring something that's really disruptive.
Does that mean that your technology is radically different to what has been done by others?
Indeed, there is no polymer valve on the market today. The only valves available to patients are either made out of metal or made out of animal tissue.
So how much then of a strain will it be perhaps getting approval for something which is so radically different to what is on the market at present?
The clinical hurdle is substantial, and we are prepared to work on clinical validation, which will require likely a first-in-human study with at least 10 patients, followed by quite a large clinical trial for this Class 3 implantable device.
If you are successful in this, can you see yourself developing exclusivity with certain manufacturers, or are you aiming that they perhaps would purchase your business to get that exclusivity?
Certainly, we'll be pursuing multiple models, and we want to ultimately get our technology to the patients who need it, whatever form that takes.
How much longer is this going to take you, do you reckon?
With our contract manufacturers and partnerships, we believe we can reach a first-in-human within the next 3 years.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, let us move to our next presentation. Willy Melhausen is a veterinary surgeon and a globally recognized thought leader in the expertise of experience sampling. He has been successfully driving innovation in human patient-reported outcomes data in clinical trial and healthcare technology for more than 20 years. As an entrepreneur, he has built several commercially successful products for multinationals, and he led award-winning teams in the United States, Germany, and Ireland. Willy is now spinning out of Dublin City University with the Athena CX Experience Sampling Platform, which already supports projects by Harvard Children's Hospital and the Scrip Institute in the United States. Willy, your 3 minutes starts now.
Imagine a future when your phone knows you're getting sick before you actually know, or even before your doctor knows. Research organizations spend more than about $800,000 per study for patient recruitment, mostly in advertising. However, only 4% of patients enroll in a clinical trial. The cost per patient in a clinical trial can be as high as $30,000. Research by the Tufts University in Boston shows that about half of all these patients drop out of their study prematurely. So why is the situation so bad? Well, because we make research too difficult and too cumbersome for patients to continue to be on the project. Regulators have recognized that, and FDA and European Medicines Agency explicitly now support decentralized clinical trials to bring these trials to the patients and into their home. Pharmaceutical research organizations and healthcare providers are now looking to implement proven technologies that guarantee patient safety as number one, and a reduction in cost. Our Athena CX platform is a proven, no-code, direct-to-patient experience sampling platform. It improves traditional survey capabilities by adding wearable device and sensor data and artificial intelligence to orchestrate this. Researchers and doctors can now trigger the correct questions at the right time and the right place without any coding or upfront investment. We already work with researchers at the Harvard Children's Hospital, Scripps Research Institute in California, Regensburg University Hospital in Germany, Cardiff University in Wales, and Fitbit. We provide these partners with standardized tools and put experience sampling into context of patient daily living and provide therefore richer and more realistic data while we reduce the patient burden at the same time. Our multidisciplinary and multicultural team is internationally recognized by pharma clients, technology providers, and research organizations. We have together more than 20 years of experience in clinical research, healthcare, and artificial intelligence. I've led successful product development and innovation teams in multinational research organizations in the US, in the UK, Germany, and now from Tipperary. I frequently present to FDA and EMA as an expert. We're looking here for a partner to support us in growing and maturing Athena CX to become the global leader. Before the COVID hit the market, the traditional clinical research was estimated to double, the market for research questionnaires was doubling from 1 billion to about 2 billion in the next 3 years. COVID now has accelerated this growth. There's bigger demand than ever before. Our funding, or the funding, will allow us to grow the team faster and accelerate revenue generation while we mature the product at the same time.
Time up, unfortunately. Thank you. That is time up. So I have some questions to ask you now. First of all, a business like this, how much of an issue is data protection and how do you address that?
So data protection is a big issue across the globe, and there are mechanisms in place and there's processes in place to protect patients and patients' identity, basically, within clinical research. There's pseudonymization and anonymization that will basically help us to capture the data, but at the same time protect patients.
But the harvesting of that particular data, I mean, how can you ensure that it only goes to the use intended?
So there's contracts in place, there's audits in place, the FDA and EMA send inspectors. So it's basically a self-regulated environment with audits. And that so far has worked pretty well. This is not a new concept, it has been around for more than 20 years.
And given the COVID-19 environment we've gone through, do you think that the use of remote surveys may actually increase now as a result of that?
We see already a big increase in that. Just these big COVID-19 vaccine studies, for example, with 30, 50, 60,000 patients, all use this survey technology already. So the market has actually grown substantially in the last 12 months only.
How have you managed to develop the partnerships to date, and what are you going to do in that regard in the future?
This is a tightly knit industry. There's only so many thousand people that work in that space. So there's only so many big players in the space of CROs and big pharma companies. So we have already the connections. I've been in the space for more than 20 years. And we're just looking to hire additional business development people that are well connected to bring us in front of these potential customers.
And briefly, as previously an entrepreneur, how difficult or easy are you finding it to raise funding?
It has its challenges, but it's an interesting concept, and we've been successful by raising interest. I'm sorry, I'm out of time and have to be fair to everybody, so thank you very much for that. And we're going to move now to our next person, who is Sandra Healy, the founder and chief executive of Inclusio. Supported by Enterprise Ireland through commercialisation funding, the company will spin out from Dublin City University next month. Prior to joining DCU in 2016, Sandra's career spanned 20 years in the technology industry. During her time in industry, Sandra recognised that measuring impact and return on investment is a key issue for organisations when it comes to driving cultural transformation. She recognised that traditional approaches have not been successful in achieving this and embarked on a mission to create a software platform that tackles these issues head on. Sandra, your 3 minutes start now.
What if CEOs could save money while doing good? What if there was a way to set the company up to win more business? Well, we know there is, and it's called a diverse and inclusive company culture. But it cannot be built on sand. And some organisations think they've got there, but this is what the research is telling us. CIPD in 2020 showed that 1 in 4 employees are experiencing discrimination at work today. Accenture in 2020 showed that 3 out of 4 employees will actively research an organisation before they consider joining. Gallup in 2017 showed that 67% of employees are disengaged in work today. These 3 things alone cost a business with 1,000 employees 3.2 million a year. Now let's take a moment to look at the market conditions. Across the EU, we have organisations being excluded from public procurement because they can't evidence their diversity. We have financial services companies being mandated to report on diversity, culture and risk, with accountability squarely sitting at the table of the CEO. And this is not going away. We have Black Lives Matter, we have the Me Too movement, we have gender pay gap reporting, and now we have COVID causing workforce disruption. All of these forces are outside the control of the organisation, and CEOs are seeking ways to respond. And Inclusio is ahead of the market, and now is the time for a radical, scientific, evidence-based approach to tackle this head-on, and that's what we've built. 4 years in the making, within the ecosystem of DCU, we have created something that is truly unique. A cutting-edge software combining technology, psychology, and artificial intelligence. And through the collective voice of the people in the organisation, we deliver scientific, evidence-based metrics around culture and diversity and inclusion. And we've linked them to business KPIs. Now let's take a moment to look at the opportunity. According to Time in 2020, companies are spending an average of 8 billion across the globe on diversity efforts. And we've identified 14,000 of those organisations. And if we convert 300 of those over the next 3 years, we will have built a 17 million business with a 64% profit margin. We have 8 beta customers that if we convert 50% of those, we'll have a 23 million business. And we have 65 customers already on our pipeline. And we have the team to deliver. We have a team, a global team, diverse skills across the globe. We have 3 founders with core expertise in tech, in startup, in product delivery, in psychology, and in commercial sales. And we're here today to seek investment, to accelerate our route to market, and to deliver 1.6 million over the next 18 months. What if you...
That is time. Thank you very much, Sandra. And I want to ask you a number of questions about a presentation that's very different to anything that we've heard so far today. First of all, how difficult is it to persuade Irish companies of the need to invest in diversity?
Well, it's not really about persuading them anymore, Matt, and particularly with financial services organisations, because CBI and European legislation has now mandated annual reporting on diversity and inclusion and culture. And we're starting to see that now. It's not just financial services. We have shareholders, we have investors, and we have board of directors now demanding that companies evidence good culture and evidence their efforts around diversity and inclusion. I think I've spent 13 years in this industry, leading on diversity and inclusion, and I think in the last 5 years we really have seen it becoming a real priority for organisations.
And do businesses see it a bit like payroll software? Give them the software and that'll do the job for them?
Well, that's not really the way that our software works. You know, our software is very much around empowering the people in the organisation to signpost and provide feedback to the organisation around what it is they need to do specifically to create a good culture. So it's very different. We have very deliberately focused on building software that people want to use. We've very deliberately built software that empowers the people in the organisation to drive the cultural change. So it's actually quite different to anything else that's out there at the moment.
Is there a minimum size for a business for which this needs to apply?
Well, we've focused on the enterprise market because that's really where the big focus is on diversity and inclusion at the moment. But our pipeline, we have customers from all different sectors and all different sizes. So I wouldn't allow that be a barrier to come and talk to us.
Sandra, thank you very much for joining us today. Now, Eric Dalton is the Chief Executive and co-founder of Stokes Microfluidics, a spin-out from the University of Limerick. Currently, microfluidic technologies are not meeting the advanced technical requirements of the pharmaceutical, biomedical and aerospace industries, stifling innovation and product development. Stokes Microfluidics has developed ultra-small form factor microfluidics control devices with unrivaled performance and reliability, enabling integration of microfluidic control into the most demanding of technology platforms. Eric, your 3-minute start now.
Microfluidics have revolutionized biology and chemistry processing, very similar to what microprocessors brought to the electronics and computer industry. It's a fast-growing technology behind many of today's groundbreaking innovations in chemical synthesis, biological analysis, optical and information technology. It's estimated at a $16 billion market and is growing at 20% per year. We have seen in the last number of years that this technology is now being adopted by industries that create higher value products, specifically biomedical, for example, in implantable devices, biopharma in drug development, and even in aerospace applications. But these industries demand significantly higher performance as they integrate these microfluidic solutions into their products. And currently, microfluidic control technologies are not meeting these advanced and more robust technology requirements. We are responding to that need. We have chosen to focus on fluidic control as it is a central component to all fluidic systems. We've created a new paradigm in this space, a patented technology that can be integrated into the most demanding of microfluidic platforms. Our unique approach combines a direct drive electromagnetic fluidic coupled system, which allows for unparalleled power, efficiency, and reliability, all critical requirements for high-value products. We have established an exceptional team to execute with a compelling track record in commercializing novel microfluidic technologies. Currently, our teams have prototypes developed and manufactured. We have performed extensive testing, which has outperformed all current technologies. And subsequently, we have deployed our technology with the European Space Agency, multinational partners such as Raytheon Technologies, Benedict Dixon, and Boston Scientific. This is the next generation of microfluidic technologies. It's powerful, compact, reliable. We believe we have the opportunity to be a world leader in fluidic control, and we are now seeking investment to ensure that this technology is embedded in every microfluidic platform in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. If I could start by asking you, just how capital intensive is this industry?
So overall, when you're building these microfluidic platforms, it's very intensive. However, some of the components that we are focusing on, not so much. So we are focusing on fluidic control, which comes down to microfluidic pumps, valving systems, and also latching valves, this type of thing. So per item is not intensive, but the development that has been enabled by EI has allowed us to do that. So a lot of work has gone into actually producing these, but to go forward is not as intensive.
Tell us how something that can be applied to the likes of pharmaceutical and biomedical can also be applied to the aerospace sector.
You would think they're different, but they're not in some ways. It's in that if you're moving fluid around, you need pumps and valves. That's it. So let's say for biopharma, or if you're doing, let's say, PCR, which COVID is kind of pushing, these are all moving liquids around. And if you look to aerospace or even the European Space Agency, they need to do that as well for two-phase cooling of their electronic components, or to actually do an experimental work in space applications. So they need reliable components.
Okay, how quickly can you develop this business, and how much is your immediate need for a new investment?
So currently we're aiming for a timeline between 6 months and a year. So we're putting a freeze on our technology, our development in about 3 months. So we're very far advanced, and we're looking for investment within 6 months to a year.
Sorry, when you say putting a freeze in your technology, what do you mean by that?
In other words, it's a final, we are happy with what we have, and we can put it out there and essentially showcase it to prospective companies.
Okay, Eric, thank you very much for being with us today. Now, our 10th of our 12 contestants, Tim Jones is Chief Executive of Symphysis Medical. Tim, alongside his co-founder Michelle Tierney, a scientist, is applying his 20 years of commercial and engineering experience to develop patient-centred solutions in palliative care, an underserved and often misunderstood area. The Symphysis Medical team are BioInnovate alumni who have had strong support from Enterprise Ireland, currently based on the University Hospital Galway campus, and will spin out from the university in 2021. Tim, your 3-minute start now.
Half of all late-stage cancer patients will get a build-up of fluid in their chest. Over the last 3 years, working in the respiratory space, we've talked to many patients with this condition. These patients typically have only 3 to 12 months to live and can suffer from overwhelming breathlessness. Quality of life is key, and every day counts. There's a space between the chest wall and the lungs called the pleural cavity, and typically in here is only 2 teaspoons of fluid, but this can rise to as much as 2 litres of fluid, putting incredible pressure on the lungs and making it very difficult to breathe. Current treatments aim to close this space permanently using a catheter which the patient, along with a nurse or a family member, drain at home. However, existing catheters have success rates as low as 50%, leading to long and unpredictable treatment times, up to as much as a year. At Symphysis Medical, we're developing an active drainage technology that's targeting to close this space permanently within only 30 days. And with a patient-centric design, we also aim to give patients back their independence by enabling them to drain at home by themselves. 500,000 of these patients will need a definitive treatment, representing an addressable market size of approximately 900 million euros across the US and Europe alone. My name is Tim Jones. I'm co-founder and CEO of Symphysis Medical. We're an experienced and highly motivated team of scientists and engineers from Ireland with clinical support from the Mayo Clinic in the US and Galway University Hospital in Ireland. We recently completed an FDA 510K pre-submission meeting for a Class 2 device, which indicated no first-in-man data is necessary for clearance, and through extensive preclinical testing have proven the effectiveness of our device. We've already validated the US market in which the device is reimbursed, and we are currently conducting a market access study on the European landscape. We're looking for €2.1 million of equity investment to complete product development, to gain regulatory clearance by Q4 of 2022, and to add commercial expertise to the team. We currently have human factors design, regulatory, and preclinical partners that have been on this journey with us from the start. The COVID pandemic has highlighted the importance of minimizing hospital stays for these vulnerable patients. Yet communication is vital, which is why we've accelerated the digital element of our device design so that we can help patients manage their condition at home and aid clinicians in monitoring their progress. We meet regularly with our partners, with our clinicians, and with current market leaders in the space to ensure we're continually identifying the best path to patient. We believe we have a disruptive technology that can offer patients a better quality of life, comfort, and independence at a time when every day counts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Tim, given the technology and device you've just described, were you in any way tempted to perhaps pivot a little bit and adapt as a COVID-19 treatment for people seriously ill?
Well, this is a different space to that, and we're specifically looking at the drainage of fluid from home, and concentrating on the digital element of it really covers that to minimise the amount of times those patients need to come into hospital for a checkup when sometimes they actually don't need it is the most important thing here. And maybe that's a minor pivot, is to actually accelerate that component of our device.
Now, in the introduction, I mentioned how palliative care is an underserved and often misunderstood area. In what way is it underserved and misunderstood?
Well, it's misunderstood in that everyone thinks of patients as this is the end of life and you have a limited amount of time and there are set protocols, but it's ever evolving. So the aim of palliative care is to have an individual approach to every patient. And this is what we're trying to understand by working closely to our clinicians to understand what that individual approach is with each patient. And this is where the digital element comes in as well. We can use this data to understand different conditions, different types of cancer that may have a different development of fluid on the lung and how that should be treated.
But if it's an underserved market, would that suggest that there is a willingness to invest in it on behalf of patients and also by investors and companies serving it?
This is what we're hoping to find out, but we have engaged with investors, and they are very open to what we're presenting to them. So I believe that over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen a change in this space, and I think we've done a lot to highlight that, and hopefully this today will highlight it even further.
As well as getting investors, have you looked to commercial partners?
We always look at any potential commercial partners, whether they're specialist distributors or multinationals in this space, and we talk on a regular basis to ensure that we are identifying the best path to get that product to patient in the quickest and most...
Tim, thank you very much. We are out of time. Thank you very much for that. Now, second last, Nicole Baker is an immunologist and pharmacovigilance professional and chief executive of Biologit. Along with Bruno Ohana and Sean Murphy, they are developing a validated software as a service offering using artificial intelligence to speed the detection of adverse events related to medicines in the medical literature. Biologit is spinning out of Trinity College Dublin and is currently funded by Enterprise Ireland Commercialisation Fund. Nicole, your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Drug safety is important for everyone. For example, after COVID-19 emerged this year, over 23,000 medical articles were published in just a couple of months. Finding safety information quickly is like searching a needle in a haystack. Pharma companies have a legal obligation to monitor 2 million new medical articles every year on a weekly basis, but only 2% of these articles contain relevant safety information about their drugs. Even though pharma companies spend $2 billion on literature monitoring every year, a lot of this money is simply wasted on reviewing irrelevant articles. Companies often have manual systems, and this work can be frustrating. I should know, I've worked in the industry for many years. We believe that we can do better using AI. Biologit uses natural language processing and deep learning technologies. Our models have been trained by drug safety professionals. We have also invited 20 pilot users from industry into our development journey. Our solution finds relevant articles faster, is fully integrated into workflow, is easy to adopt by any pharma company, and delivers productivity gains up to 70%. Biologit will secure external regulatory validation for its software in the first quarter of 2021. We will launch our first commercial product in the middle of next year. Although we do have competitors, they do not have working AI models as good as ours. Pilot users tell us that we have a global market lead today. Our solution has received feedback from hundreds of pharma companies which are hungry for better answers to their literature headaches. In fact, we have already been invited to participate in bid for a top 20 pharma company. Our pricing model suggests that large companies can realize savings of over 1 million per year using our systems. And our commercial benefits of adopting our technology are compelling to companies of all sizes. As a founder, I am networked right across the European and US pharma markets. Personal reputation, trust is very important for this industry. We have a capital light software as a service business model and strong management team that can rapidly scale the business. Over the past year, we have developed our prototype to proven it with our pilot users. Now it is time for us to raise funds, spin out of Trinity, expand the team, launch our first product, pressing home our first mover advantage in a $2 billion market. We are looking for seed investors to share our vision for an Irish global pharma SaaS pioneer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. The first thing I have to ask you is, what makes you so confident that the artificial intelligence you're applying is better than that of your competitors?
Oh, the competitors don't have artificial intelligence, so they are doing it manually. So we are comparing our results with what drug safety professionals are doing. So we are validating our system all the time. So we compare what we find with what a person would find.
But how easy would it be for competitors to incorporate artificial intelligence into what they're doing and removing your unique selling point?
Well, they will have to work on it and develop the technology. So they haven't done so far, but they could. You have to label. It's not that easy because you need to label all the articles. So the technology is based on information that you give to the technology. So we are in the drug safety pharmacovigilance space. So we have the expertise to be able to build a model that is fit for purpose for pharmacovigilance.
What can you tell us about your first commercial product that you will be launching in 6 months' time, and who exactly will it be aimed at?
So the end user for the first product that we are developing are pharma companies or service providers that are performing literature monitoring on behalf of pharma companies. So they would be our first customers.
How many of them are likely to look for exclusivity to give themselves an advantage over their competitors, thereby reducing perhaps the size of your overall market?
Well, they can't, like the software industry in pharmacovigilance, I don't think they can ask for that because it's an open market and it's a legal obligation for all pharma companies. So they're currently doing it and they're not doing it in the most efficient way. So what we want to bring to the table is for pharma companies to have their literature monitoring done in a much more efficient way.
Nicole,
and
thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is our time. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I have to be rigorous to be fair to everybody. So we come to our final presentation of our dozen today. Peter Doyle is Chief Executive and Co-founder of Biosimilytics, a UCD spin-out company whose software platform promises to help make the process of developing new drugs much faster, more accurate and less risky. Peter is something of a veteran of the high-tech sector with past ventures including Baltimore Technologies, S3, Corvil Networks and iHeed. He has now joined forces to establish Biosimilytics with his co-founders, Professor Niall English and Dr. Christian Burnham, as the developers of their unique technology. Peter, your 3 minutes start now.
Normally it takes 12 years to bring a new drug to market with only a 1% chance of success. Yet in recent weeks, pharma companies have been announcing new COVID vaccines with 70 to 90% efficacy, all developed within just 12 months. This really is an amazing achievement, but what has made the difference? There are several factors, but one of the key drivers is the digitization of the drug development process, powered by artificial intelligence and supercomputers. These technologies are game changers in the pharma industry, and our company, Biosimilytics, is playing in this exact space. We are focused on digitizing one particular but crucial step in the process, which is to do with how new drug molecules are manufactured in the form of pills. This requires finding the most stable crystal structure of the molecule, also known as the polymorph, because molecules can have many possible stable structures which are viable, and they can change over time from one stable structure to a different one with different chemical properties, even after the drug has been manufactured and shipped for use. This is potentially disastrous for a pharma company. And indeed, the precise identification of the polymorph is now essential in regulatory and patent filings for new drugs. The current method for finding the most stable polymorph is a slow and arduous manual process taking 6 months or longer with uncertain results. It's like trying to find that proverbial needle in the haystack while blindfolded. Biosimilytics has developed a digital solution to the problem. Our software platform can take the most basic 2D structure of a molecule, and using neural network technology on supercomputers, we can predict the full polymorph landscape of that molecule and rank the most stable crystal structures, all within a matter of weeks. Our software is faster, more powerful, and more flexible than any existing solutions, and is truly a game changer in our field. We have filed an international patent application for our technology and have created the spin-out company. We have a strong founding team with the right blend of technical and commercial expertise and experience. We have won our first contract with a major pharma company here in Europe and have signed evaluation agreements with 2 more. We're now closing our first seed round to grow the team, and we'll be raising our Series A in 12 to 18 months from now to expand into the US market. And just to give you a sense for the size of the opportunity, a spin-out from MIT with similar technology to ours closed their Series C round last month for over $300 million, with backers including Google. there is no doubt digital drug development is a big idea that is now turning into big business. We aim to be part of it and are inviting you to join us on this exciting venture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Well, given that you mentioned a competitor getting $300 million in funding, is that your ambition for your business?
Yeah, one step at a time, probably, Matt. We've just done the spin out and we have our first contracts, which is fantastic. So we want to initially complete the full validation of our technology in the market, and then we'll see from our Series A, Series B, which way we go. They're particularly targeting a part of the market to do with discovering new drugs, which is why it needs huge money, but obviously huge potential reward. At the moment, we're focusing on drugs that have been discovered, are in preclinical phase 1 trials. And that in itself is a lucrative opportunity, and then we'll see where we take it from there.
You mentioned, though, that they had got Google as an investor. Is that something that you might look to as well, to get one of the tech giants to be a partner in your development?
Yeah, I mean, as I said in the presentation, it's AI and supercomputing, high-performance computing that is a huge driver in this. There's an amazing amount of innovation going on. Google are not just exclusive with that particular company. They're backing lots of players in it. So we're certainly keen to talk to them and to Big Pharma. And there's a lot of big companies in life sciences software that we are talking to. They're a potential exit for us in time. So yeah, we obviously want to keep all our options on the table.
And Peter, how helpful is it to you in this business that you've been through it a number of times before with other businesses?
Yeah, I'd like to think it helps, Matt, because I've seen what works and what doesn't work, and I can't say everything's been a great success. So, but that's huge learning. So it definitely makes a huge difference in coming into a small team like this and hopefully avoiding some of the pitfalls.
Thank you very much for being with us. So that is the end of our 12 presentations. My thanks and congratulations to everybody who's pitched and for putting up as well with the rather silly questions that I might have asked in relation to things. This is your opportunity to vote. We do have a viewer poll. The details should be coming up on the screen for you now, on the slide. And you can vote by going to slido.com, and you see the details there on the screen of how you can participate. That'll be one of the 2 prizes that we will be awarding, and 2 awards later on in our presentation today. But what we also do now each year, while we give our judges the opportunity to appraise what they have just seen, is we have a special keynote guest. And our guest today is an Irish woman who's enjoying considerable international success in her business career. Anita Sands, PhD, is a US-based corporate board director who currently serves on 3 public companies and 2 private company boards in the technology, real estate and financial services sectors. She's a former Fulbright scholar. She holds a PhD in atomic and molecular physics and a master's in public policy and management. And she's the incoming James Wee Visiting Professor in Entrepreneurship at Princeton University and is also a contributor to Forbes on leadership and strategy. During her career, she says she has enjoyed what she calls a number of pivots. Firstly, from physics into public policy, then from academia into financial services, and finally, or at least for now, from technology to the boardroom. She spent a decade in financial services and C-suite positions before pivoting into technology, where she spent the past 7 years working alongside some of the world's best CEOs. And she writes and speaks internationally on topics such as technology, diversity, and leadership in the digital age. Anita, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
Hi, Matt. Good afternoon to everybody in Dublin. So lovely to be with you.
Now, to start, just tell me, please, a little bit maybe about where you are now, the 3 public companies on whose boards you serve and what you bring to them.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate, some great, interesting endeavors in my portfolio. Right now, I'm on the board of a company called ServiceNow, which is the world's leading enterprise SaaS company in the workflow space. So very much in the same realm as Salesforce.com and Workday, those types of companies. I'm also on the board of a company called Pure Storage, which provides flash storage for the enterprise. So very much kind of cutting edge in terms of the future of infrastructure and data centers. And the other public company I serve on is a company called iStar, which is in the corporate real estate business here, based out of New York. And they're actually looking to revolutionize the corporate real estate world vis-a-vis ground leases, which is quite a new business here in the United States. So they're my public boards. The two private boards are also very exciting. One of them is a company called Nubank, which is in Brazil. It's the world's largest, or it's Latin America's largest digital neobank. So very much upending kind of all the incumbents in the banking sector. Fascinating company to be involved with. And I think, Matt, in terms of what I bring to the equation, it's that sort of mixture of, as you mentioned in my background, I've done quite a range of things. And I think the art of being a good director is asking the right question at the right time and the right tone. So having a range of things in your background that you can draw upon to frame those questions and to open up the dialogue in the boardroom, it's serving me well thus far.
Indeed it is, and that's an absolutely fascinating range of different interests that you actually have to cover. How difficult is it to be on top of all those different types of businesses and technologies?
Well, you know, it's fascinating, Matt. It's what I love about the job, to be honest with you. I mean, I didn't necessarily anticipate moving into a portfolio career as early on in my life as I did. But then I found that it really plays to my skill set and my strengths, which is sort of, you know, my breadth is my depth, as I like to say. But I also was very purposeful, Matt, insofar as I think it's important for every director to think about the value proposition you bring to the boardroom. And for me, I was very clear that I was going to be a board director who majored in bringing the future into the present. A lot of directors come to the table with 30 years of experience, and they're trading on that past experience and the depth of that to bring value to the dialogue. And I recognized very early on, that's not the value that I bring. That's not my profile. Instead, I'm going to always be committed to looking ahead, looking around the corner, wondering what these companies will be coming up against, staying current on what's going on in all of these industries, and then trying to bring that kind of more forward-looking perspective into the room. And as I like to say, good directors provide the right balance of oversight, insight and foresight when they come to the meetings.
But does that mean that you're not intimately involved now with the day-to-day running of any particular business, that what you do is provide that degree of oversight at a range of business?
Yeah, that's right, Matt. And I think that's actually an important distinction for us sort of non-exec directors, NEDs, as we're better known in Ireland and the UK. You know, they say that being a director is about sort of, nose in and fingers out, right? You actually have to remind yourself that you are not there to run the company. You are there to provide guidance and advice and to try to challenge management to make the best decisions that they can. But I love some of the CEOs I've worked with. Whenever board members would be crossing over that line and getting into the operational details, one of them would always say, I just need you all to put your screwdrivers back in your back pockets, please. You're not here to tinker with the engine. So it's actually an interesting distinction to find yourself on that side of the fence versus sort of those of us who are used to coming out of operating roles. It's a different, as I say to these CEOs, like, we're on the same team, we just play different positions. So you got to remember what your position is.
I've been reading some of your writing recently in Forbes. There's some fascinating stuff there. And you've been writing a lot about cognitive diversity recently. Tell us a little bit about your own particular career path to get to where you are, because that certainly seems to indicate quite a lot of cognitive diversity. How did you go from physics to the boardroom?
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Gosh, this could be a good conversation for over a few pints. Look, I would love to say it was all very well architected and designed, but like most things in life, there was an element of serendipity as well. I would say the thread that kind of connects it all, though, Matt, is I really do have a fairly insatiable curiosity and an interest in a broad range of things. I started out as a physicist at the Queen's University of Belfast, as you pointed out, and I loved physics in secondary school. You know, I was either going to study physics or economics, and so I did my 6 years there, my undergrad in physics and applied math, and then my PhD in atomic and molecular physics. But I decided halfway through my PhD I wasn't destined to be a research scientist for life, but I was fascinated in the impact that science and technology were having in the world. And I thought that there weren't enough people who kind of could speak both languages, right? People who came from a scientific background, who understood policy, and people who worked in the policy realm who had enough scientific depth in their backgrounds. And I really do feel, as my career has sort of progressed and I've traversed multiple disciplines and multiple industries, there's tremendous value to those who can kind of unlock the value between two seams. People who can speak sort of multiple languages because they've spent time in multiple industries. So I think all of that is sort of part of my value proposition. But increasingly, with the pace of change being what it is, Matt, the half-life of our skill sets is getting shorter and shorter. So all of us kind of have to commit to a lifelong journey of continuous learning and upskilling and curiosity. So I'm glad that that's been a hallmark of my path thus far, and I hope it will continue to be.
I know you're very, very interested in the whole concept of leadership. And one line that you wrote recently, which I thought was fascinating and I'd like you to elaborate upon, was the best lead when the plan falls apart. And I think for many, many people in business, because of what's happened with COVID in 2020, the plans have fallen apart. So tell us what you think is required in a leader at a time like this.
Yeah, Matt, it's just such a great question. And leader in every realm, in public sector, private sector, sort of the conditions of this year have really been truly unprecedented. It was very clear to me, Matt, this year that, I was spending time in boardrooms in Silicon Valley, and you think of Silicon Valley as being an epicenter, bastion of disruption. And, we kind of prided ourselves on being disruptors across a broad range of industries. And yet then as this sort of pandemic hit and the crisis unfolded, it was very clear that people around me were feeling incredibly disrupted, but in a different way. So that caused me to step back and say, what is different about the conditions of this year? And what became evident is that this wasn't disruption as we would traditionally think about it in business. This was a case of acute ambiguity. So the best way that I describe that, Matt, is like you could have decision-making frameworks that would help you decide on which hook you want to hang your hat. But where do you decide, how do you decide where to hang your hat in the absence of any hooks? That's sort of the difference. So it calls for a very different type of leadership and a different type of skill set. But primarily some of the skills that are going to be required going forward, Matt, which this year has made, sort of acutely evident. One is learning agility, right? We need leaders that have the ability to learn quickly, to ask the right questions, and quite frankly, who have the humility and the courage to be vulnerable and recognize that, no, I don't have all the answers here. And by definition, in a world where you are facing unprecedented conditions, your prior experience can only get you so far, because if this is unprecedented, then nobody's dealt with it. So it's then going to be a case of people who can respond with agility, who can ask the right questions, who can remain open-minded and curious enough to allow emergent answers to unfold. And particularly going back to the point around cognitive diversity, you're looking for leaders who can put a team of people together who do represent a diverse range of perspectives, and then who sort of lean into those differing perspectives to get the most strategic view of what is going on. So one way to put it, Matt, is, if you're on a battlefield, it doesn't help if everybody on your team looks at the problem through the same set of binoculars. You want people to bring various perspectives. So I think you're really looking for leaders with that type of learning agility, leaders who can sort of manage the polarities between, say in this year, vulnerability and empathy for employees with kind of courage and strength, or strategic vision and a view of the North Star, but yet being willing to pivot and modify as the conditions require. So it's sort of a very, I think in some respects, a very different type of leader is starting to emerge. And what's clear to me is that where we go and find these leaders from is not going to be the same as it was in the past. These sort of career paths of working your way up through the ranks of an organization to get to the C-suite and then be a CEO successor, that is only one path. But if you think about, say, the story of GE and how they traditionally would have selected their leaders very much from these internal succession paths, it's not clear that that will necessarily save or serve all of these incumbent companies very well in the future when these different types of skill sets are required. So it's a fascinating time for boards, because of course one of the things that we are charged with most is selecting the CEO and choosing the right leader for the future.
It's very interesting you use GE as an example, given the disruption of value that has taken place in the last 20 years with the transition from Jack Welch to Jeff Immelt and beyond. But I am interested as well about being present. I think this is something else you've written about, that leaders may not be able to say they have all the answers at present, but they have to be there projecting a degree of positivity while also be realistic. Talk a little bit more about that.
That's right, particularly in times of crisis. So what happens, Matt, in a crisis or acute uncertainty, and look, we've all felt this in our personal lives, right? You see it even across your family. when people feel anxious or uncertain, or they sense sort of the ground is shaky beneath their feet, fears can kind of metastasize in their minds, right? And those anxieties can take on sort of a life of their own. So it's incredibly important for a leader to show up, be present, as you rightly say, confront the reality that the team is facing right now, and to do so with a balance of pragmatism and realism to recognize what is happening, but also to bring in the appropriate dosage of hope and optimism, because that is what orientates people towards the change in a way that's very constructive and positive. And I think a lot of leaders felt that, I shouldn't go out and do an all hands meeting or a town hall with my employees when I have all the answers. But at times like this, those that we've experienced this year, people want to see that their leaders are there, they're visible, they are empathetic to what's going on, they're giving the best transparent information that they can at the point in time, and that they're being very authentic in how they do that. If you try and orchestrate your presence in a time when people are feeling acute uncertainty and distress, they can smell that from 1,000 miles away. So hugely important to be visible, to be communicative, to be transparent, and most of all, to be authentic as a leader at times like this.
You also write a lot about resilience and the requirement not to bounce back, as a lot of people say you need to do at a time like this, but bounce forward. So define resilience for me in a corporate world or in a business setting, and explain the difference as you see it between bouncing back and bouncing forward.
Yeah, well, the thing about like acute ambiguity and the pace of change. I mean, I love Justin Trudeau had this wonderful line that he used at Davos a couple of years ago, and he said, the pace of change has never been this fast and will never be this slow again. And I think that is particularly true. Change happens faster in times of change. So to be resilient, there's no point in trying to bounce back to something that no longer exists because things are changing so rapidly. We always want to equip ourselves with the ability to bounce forward and to bounce upward. So as a business leader, what that looks like in my mind, Matt, is to think about how can I bend the curve for my company as we're coming out of this crisis? How can I move my team from a point of not just enduring what we are going through or even performing and getting to the end of the year with reasonable results, but actually conditioning people to thrive in conditions where things are perpetually changing and are uncertain. So that was the question that I posed this year, Matt. And the challenge I would put to all of the aspiring leaders who are listening today and all these terrific entrepreneurs that we've heard from is, I remember reading a phenomenal story about a Harvard professor. She wrote a book, and actually this was a story in the acknowledgement section. And she was midway through writing this book that took her 10 years. And halfway through, her house went on fire. And she describes in the acknowledgements how the night of the blaze, she ran around trying to close every door in her house that she could to stop the spread of the blaze. And later that night, as she stood outside with her family, with her home entirely engulfed in flames, she said, it never occurred to me that I was closing doors to rooms that would no longer exist. And that just hit me, Matt, in the gut. I've never, ever been able to forget that story since. And I've used it in all of my boardrooms and a lot of conversations like this, because as leaders in times of ambiguity, if you want to be resilient, you have to think about, are you spending your time opening doors to rooms that might exist in the future, creating those rooms perhaps, or are you spending your time really on rear view mirror rooms that kind of might not exist in the future? So to me, resilience is not about bouncing back to where you once were. It is not about going through a period of change and coming out of it remaining the same and unchanged. It's not about grieving everything that you've lost. It's about thinking about the world of things you stand to gain here. It's about, how can I allow these changes to occur to me, absorb these learnings, and then come out of this wiser, more evolved, morphed, changed as a business. And just to kind of bring it back, Matt, to your specific questions about leaders, we are seeing, and this is an evident point, right? Times like this are when seismic dislocations occur in industries, right? Like, who would ever have imagined that one of the chief competitors to Aer Lingus or to United Airlines would be Zoom? I mean, it's just like the world is upside down right now. So you see these seismic dislocations, and it's critical, therefore, that leaders, have the ability to pivot and to react and not to kind of stay tied to or weighed down by the incumbency of the past or any of the assumptions that were inherently embedded in their business model or their strategic planning in the past either. So to me, that's what resilience is. It's about the ability to absorb what's happening, be aware, as you say, and then react and respond appropriately so that you can take advantages of the disruption and not be a victim of it.
Indeed, you've written about developing a model for thriving in ambiguity, the ABCD model. You've touched, I think, on the awareness, but take us through the other parts of it.
Yeah, Matt, it's sort of Sesame Street simple, ABCD. I kind of, you need these models to be memorable, if nothing else. So awareness is very much what you said. It's about understanding on an individual level, self-awareness. How did this crisis find me? How has it affected me? What are my strengths that I can draw on? What are my triggers? What replenishes me as a leader? So important as we head into the holiday season to know what is it that depletes you and what is it that replenishes you, and focus on that. And then the other element of awareness is strategic awareness, which we've talked about earlier, this ability to bring a broad range of perspectives to the table and to leverage that to gain strategic awareness of the context as it unfolds, right? So it's a very dynamic process. The B is belonging. And what that means, Matt, is at times of crisis, for every single one of our employees, right? We were all in these routines and rituals. Now we're all working from home. And even the most loyal of employees start to ask this existential question of, what's holding me here? Did I like what I was doing? Or has this crisis kind of shown that, no, something, it's more important to be closer to my parents. It's more important to have flexibility to be able to pick my kids up from school. There's just things that have surfaced in my life that are a higher priority. So employees need to feel this bond of belonging to the company, to the purpose, to the mission, in order to sort of, be tied in and to stay engaged in conditions of duress and stress. So the way I describe belonging in a nutshell, Matt, is belonging to employees at times like this is like gravity to an astronaut. If they don't feel it, if it's not there, they run the risk of breaking apart. And what we know about high-performing teams, who thrive in ambiguity, they really see belonging as central to their success, because these are conditions where you feel accepted, you feel trusted, you can trust your boss to have your back. You know that the mission of the company is important. You know that the values of the company is aligned with are aligned with your values. And you know that this is a place where you feel nurtured and stretched. So basically, work for people who have this strong sense of belonging, work is something that replenishes them and provides support, not something that drains them. So it's really essential, actually, as an element of resilience. C, I've already touched on as well, that's curiosity. And curiosity is what allows you to orientate towards change in a completely different way. Curiosity gets you out of that fight, flight, freeze mode. In fact, physiologically, it's impossible for your brain to be in curiosity mode and in fight, flight, freeze. So it has a huge amount of sort of emotional benefits. Cognitively, curiosity leaves you exploring for longer, allows you to manage risks better, allows you to see resources differently. It allows you to find yourself ways out of corners that you're jammed into. So curiosity is actually a superpower, to be honest with you, at an individual and an organizational level at times like this. And then drive, probably my favorite letter of all, Matt. Drive, and again, this is coming from a study of elite teams who thrive in ambiguity. Drive is about being unapologetic about certain things. And most importantly, being unapologetic about the need for rest and recovery and respite. Knowing that you have to you have to pause, you have to slow down, you have to take a bit of a time out to sort of just get your feet underneath you again, feel that sense of equilibrium, do what it is that replenishes you in order to come back and to be at your best when your best is needed. That is not every hour of every day. It's some hours of some days. So these elite teams know that there's sort of an oscillation between when you're in sort of full drive and when you can afford to be idling a little bit. They're also really, really conscious about who they engage in what and in what way. So let me explain why this is so important for leaders right now if we want to build resilience into our teams. Everybody is kind of depleted by the conditions and the circumstances of their lives. So now is not a time to ask your employees to do any superfluous, unnecessary work. Now is a time as a manager to be rigorous in prioritizing what you get people to do, to cut out all of the white noise, and to re-engage and engage them in their work in a way that has a far higher degree of intent, Matt, and intentionality than we normally invoke in the corporate world. Let me give you a very tangible example. I was on a board call last week, an audit committee call. There were 16 people from management and from the company on the call with us, and 6 of them spoke in the duration of the 2-hour call. So I'm sitting there going, I don't know why these other 10 people needed to be on this call, but I don't think that was a purposeful, intentional, meaningful engagement for them or a good use of their time. So particularly in this era of Zoom, when it is very easy just to throw everybody on every call, I think we even need to be more purposeful about who we engage in what and in what way. So that's A, B, C, and D. And combined, Matt, they're a process. They're not just sort of a one and done thing. There's sort of a process that you keep sort of circling through in order to build resilience at an individual, team, and organizational level.
Anita, something else I read that you quoted recently, which hadn't struck me before, but very interesting, and I think would be very interesting to the people who have been involved in making the presentations today and who are watching this. You said, nothing can prepare you for the loneliness of leadership, but I think entrepreneurship is the loneliest journey of all. Tell me a little bit more about why you say that.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so true, Matt. And, I really, really deeply admire entrepreneurs for the skill sets they have, for the optimism they bring, and for the role they play in our society. We wouldn't be anywhere without them. So to all of you that are out there, when you have those moments of doubt, keep going because we need you to do what you do and be your best. Any CEO finds that it is an incredibly lonely seat. There's not that many people you can talk to. There's not that many people that can empathize with the seat and the conditions you're in. The puck stops with you, or whatever that expression is. The buck stops with you, like literally every minute of the day. Your board are there for you, but it's not everything that you want to reveal to your board all of the time if you are having doubts or uncertainties about certain things. So that's a relationship that is helpful to a degree. Your team, of course, are there for you, but again, you're there to lead the team, so you can't always reveal the depths of your fears or your insecurities to your team. So it sort of creates this condition of loneliness. One of the things that's most, and for entrepreneurs, Matt, in particular, they are not only in that seat, but they're in these conditions of incredible ambiguity all of the time, right? You are dealing with the unknown. You are sort of stepping into an unfolding journey. You're creating that journey with others. So there's just, I think on one hand, tremendous excitement. And for great entrepreneurs, that's what fires them up. And that's what they love, and that's why they do it. But, it's not to say it's easy. It certainly isn't. So one of the things I really encourage everybody to think about, if you could imagine a leader standing on top of a mountain, sort of at this lonely peak, the only person who's really going to share his vantage point is a guy or a gal who's standing on the top of the next mountain over, equally high up, equally looking down, and can empathize with that position. So we're a great believer in some of the companies I work with, Matt, and across sort of my consulting organization, Propel Performance Group, in sort of peer-to-peer CEO entrepreneur kind of cohorts, learning cohorts. These are trusted groups of peers where you can come together, Chatham House rules, and talk about the conditions and the experiences that you are having together. And not only is that helpful because it prevents you from reinventing the wheel for yourself every single time, but it is also one of the very few ways in which entrepreneurs and CEOs can build their self-efficacy, because it's incredibly grounding and rewarding and enriching to see how your strengths and your wisdom is enabling somebody else and is helpful to somebody else at a peer level. So I'm just a great believer, and I encourage anybody who's on the call today to continue to build this terrific network across each other, and to have each other as peers and friends, because that is one way you mitigate the loneliness of that particular job.
There is one other topic I want to discuss with you, because you have also written very persuasively about diversity being an economic issue as much as maybe a social or ethical one, because it's a way to make sure that companies get the best financial return by having all of the voices that diversity can contribute to management. But yet, are you still in a situation whereby you're one of the few females who has multiple board positions in corporate America? And indeed, that's something that's often replicated throughout the Western world.
Yeah, there's no question, Matt, we've made some progress in terms of, particularly at the board level, relative to diversity and specifically gender diversity. That's been enabled by, California, for example, has a couple of new pieces of legislation that mandates sort of certain percentage of publicly traded companies, getting to sort of diverse representation in the boardroom. It is but as I want to be clear, Matt, good is not perfect and better is not equal. We are nowhere close to equality. There's a few things fundamentally wrong with the board situation in particular. I've argued for a long time that it's not a supply side problem. There's ample amounts of well-qualified women who could sit in boardrooms. It's a demand-side process problem, in part driven by the fact that most board recruiting starts with, who do you know who'd be great around this room and around this table in this room? And of course, all of our networks tend to look like people who are like us. So that sort of just perpetuates the problem. So there's a lot that needs to be done at the board level, and a lot that can be done, I think, quite effectively. The reason I am such a strong proponent of diversity is not because I think it's a nice thing to do or the right thing to do. If my job, Matt, as a director, is to protect the long-term interests of shareholders. And quite frankly, I don't see any way of doing that unless we are drawing on the skills and the perspectives of a broad range of people, a diverse range of people with a diverse range of experiences. And particularly in the tech sector where I work, if you think about the impact of technology in the future, if we only harness a subset of the world's skills and insights and and the percentage of the population, I kind of feel like we're putting humanity on a plane that's only flying on one wing. And if you look on, industries in the, say in the United States, I'll give you the statistics here. You take AI, only about 20-25% of the jobs in AI are held by women. Only 2 to 4%, depending on what study you look at, of the tech industry is made up of Hispanic or Black employees. Now, that to me spells a major problem, because the platforms and the capabilities that this industry is building is not just a set of tools. Like this is the foundation upon which humanity as a digital species will exist. And therefore, those capabilities, tools, platforms, systems have to be created by everybody for everybody. So I feel that it's a business imperative, it's critical, but I also think, just to bring it back, Matt, to more of an Irish context where it isn't just about ethnic diversity. One of the things we do badly is we define diversity very poorly. We tend to sort of hone in immediately on variables such as gender or race. But as I like to remind people, there are a lot of things that go into shaping your worldview. If you grow up in County Louth, you're going to have a different perspective than somebody that maybe grew up in Cork or Dublin, right? If you grow up in a sort of one set of socioeconomic conditions, that shapes your perspective on the world, versus if you grow up, say, in a very elite set of conditions. So there are a lot of things that go into how we think about life, how we look at the world, and the perspective we bring. And one of them, for instance, Matt, that I think is applicable is age, right? 91% of people say that they have experienced some form of age discrimination at some point in their career. They were told they were a bit young for something, they were told they were a little old for something, and yet only 6 to 8% of diversity strategies include age as a variable. So just stepping back from this again is about how do you build a team, a leadership team and a team that reflects the broad perspectives, skills and talents of the world, and how can you harness those so that your business has a competitive advantage. And I don't know about you, Matt, but after a year like this, I would lock onto any potential source of competitive advantage that I could garner, and I think having a diverse team is certainly one of them.
Anita, there is so much more that I could ask you about, but unfortunately we've run out of time. It is tremendous to see somebody from County Louth having so much success across a range of disciplines in business in the United States and indeed further afield. And your writings in relation to management and diversity and directorships are also fascinating, and I would recommend them to anybody on the Forbes website to check out. It's been great having you with us. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
thoughtful questions. And don't forget, President Biden comes from Louth as well. So Louth and Proud. We'll keep on all the way.
Comes from Louth and a bit of Mayo as well, that I'm sure anyone in Mayo will tell us also. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us at the Big Ideas today. Okay, we are moving towards the prize giving, our awards for the presentations that have been made. So Stephen Creaner, Executive Director at Enterprise Ireland, is joining us now to tell us who the winners are.
Thank you, Matt, and what a fantastic afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Creaner. I'm the Executive Director with responsibility for the food, industrial and innovation divisions within Enterprise Ireland. I just thought today's event really lived up to the reason why we actually have it, and namely to showcase the excellence in research commercialisation in Ireland in the last 12 months. The presentations were fantastic examples, in my opinion, of what we call innovation excellence, which is the broader aspect of innovation, which takes in every aspect, including research and development, route to market, team building, leadership, as well as a whole range of other aspects that make a product or an idea something that can add value and get executed. I think it was very interesting as we just look back on today's presentations and conversations. It was very informative to hear Garrod talk about how important research commercialisation has been to a whole range of clients with a large number of people employed in this area and a huge investment succeeded on an annualised basis. The presentations today, I thought, were insightful, they were articulate, they were bang on time, they were very interesting in terms of the content of how they articulated the product or the service that they were providing. And I think it was going to be a particularly difficult choice for the team who've made the final choice in the awards. It was fascinating to see Anita's conversation there. I'm a real believer in the concepts of leadership with humility, the whole area of trying to be insightful and trying to give oversight as a director in any particular organization. But it's the longer term vision, the vision that tries to give a prediction of where the world is going and try and give an organization the type of information that they need to try and make the right decisions in the context of the noise that's out there in the broader innovation ecosystem. Within Enterprise Ireland, as part of our innovation strategy, we are particularly focused on that in the year ahead and building a strategic intelligence unit which will give information to our client base as well as to ourselves as to how the world is changing, and the pace of that change is going to be one of the key new deliverables for the division which I'm responsible for. I think the final thing I'd like to say is, as I look at the presentations today, it's very interesting to see that medtech is continuing to be a large portion of the interest level, but it's beginning to dovetail with digital health, which I think is a new trend and a very positive trend for the future. It's very interesting to see diversity beginning to come onto the agenda, that STEM has moved to STEAM in terms of where some of the ideas are coming from, and also to see the fact that about 2/3 of the co-founders were women. And that was a real positive aspect and something that Enterprise Ireland is constantly trying to reinforce. Anyway, my job here is not to spend too much time. Everybody stuck to their 3 minutes, so I'm going to try and reflect that in my summation. Before I go to the awards, I'd like to thank you, Matt, yet again for doing an outstanding job as MC for this event. As I said last year, I thought your preparation and professionalism was a role model for anybody doing this type of thing, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of Enterprise Ireland. I'd also like to thank the team, both within Enterprise Ireland and here today at the event, and all those who participated in the preparation and the training and the development of the pitches, to say a genuine thank you for the effort that was put in. It was really evident, both in terms of the quality of the delivery, but also the synchronicity and the timeliness of how this whole event has been run. And a particular thank you to the team within Enterprise Ireland. So without further ado, I have to announce two winners. The first one is the One to Watch Award, and this was adjudicated by a team from Enterprise Ireland who reviewed all of the presentations. And the winner is Gallen Band, Eddie McDade. Congratulations, Eddie.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
I only wish I was able to hand over the trophy to you, but I'm sure we'll find some way of providing a transmission of what is a beautifully elegant trophy to you in recognition of a fantastic presentation today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm astounded, but thank you very much.
We also had, as a new innovation this year, the Viewer's Choice Award. And the Viewer's Choice Award was voted on by all of the participants, who I'm informed we had almost 600 participants at today's event, which was far exceeded the expectations, and a great credit to the quality of the presentations and also the marketing by the team within Enterprise Ireland and further afield. And the winner of the Viewer Choice Award is Gallon Band. Eddie McDade again. This is like Ben-Hur from the 1958 Oscars. Congratulations to Eddie. So you win on both fronts. The technical, commercial assessment by the team who were assessing the presentations, and the viewer's choice as well. So a fantastic event today. Well done. Matt, I'll hand back to you.
Indeed, and Eddie, congratulations to you. This actually means, Eddie, that you don't just have to do the winner's interview, you have to do 2 winners' interviews now, as well as having done the presentation earlier. But we'll just try and put it all into one. Congratulations. What does it mean to you to actually have won this?
Well, it's unbelievable. I'm delighted to have won it, and not only for myself, but also on behalf of my co-founders, Oisin McGrath and Patrick Conway, particularly Oisin McGrath, who really is the first among equals in terms of he's the person who had the original idea and is the inventor of Gallon Band. So, yeah, I know they're over the moon, and I'm over the moon as well.
Just show us again, perhaps, to the screen, that device that you actually have on your wrist. And just maybe show it a little bit closer, a little bit. I mean, how much actually has to go into the manufacture of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot to it. You know, if you think about something that's measuring the pulse, for example, a smartwatch, it's basically getting a bit of data every second. And what this is doing is it's managing to construct the full heart waveform that you might know from, you know, watching shows like ER. And in order to do that, you're generating quite a lot of data. So it's a very sensitive sensor that does it. And then you're having to store that data and analyze it and do all kinds of clever things with AI to filter it and construct from a lot of noise a signal that looks analogous to ECG.
Indeed. How difficult is it to get the accuracy right in it? Because I'm sure most people who have the multi-purpose Swiss Army knives sports watches that you referred to earlier have times where they feel frustrated that the information may not necessarily be accurate, particularly in relation to monitoring their health. So how do you actually manage to achieve that with your device?
Well, there's 2 things actually. So the first thing I would say is that with those kinds of devices, one of the big problems they have is that their model is that they're sending alerts and information to the actual wearer of the device. And in order to really understand what's happening in real time with a heartbeat, you would need to take that data and analyze it on the cloud. So we specifically don't try and give alerts to the user or anything like that. We're giving the data to the clinician. It's a medical device. The clinician, well, we do analysis with our AI platform, but we're really calling out areas that they need to look at. They then make the decisions and they communicate to the patient. So it's a different model to these consumer devices.
How exciting a time is it for you now as you prepare to spin out of NUI Galway? And are you perhaps a little bit anxious as well about what the future holds?
Well, it's very exciting. I mean, we have a very clear plan. So we have a pathway to achieving regulatory approval. We have a first clinical study which is happening imminently, and a second study that will happen in the run-up to that regulatory approval. And you know, that approval itself is an inflection point for the business and gets us ready to launch. So, you know, we know what we need to do. Actually, the bit of it that I'm least anxious about is the go-to-market side of it and the ability to sell this, because it's such a clear solution to a problem that is not fixed and cannot be fixed with current technology and offerings on the market. So it's, for us, as I said at the end, we have a team, we're eager to go, and it's really now about finding the right partners to work with moving forward.
Have you identified potential partners?
We're just at the beginning of that journey now. So we have 6 months left to go in our COM fund, our Enterprise Ireland funding, so within NUIG. And so we're getting our clinical data in the first part of the year, the first set of clinical data that we'll get, human data. And in parallel with that, we're just starting that process now of talking to investors and talking to strategic partners.
So a very, very exciting time for you, made even better by winning not just the One to Watch award, but also you've deeply impressed the viewers to today's presentation, so much so that the majority voted for you as well. So congratulations to you, Eddie McDade, Chief Executive and co-founder of Gallium-Band, and we look forward to watching in the years to come to see how your business progresses. Best wishes to you and congratulations again.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, everyone.
So that brings us to the conclusion of our Big Ideas for 2020. It has been a different event this year in that we didn't have the usual networking, but we're delighted that we've had the numbers that Stephen referred to joining us here today. And I hope that you got an enormous amount out of it, inspiration from the various particular ideas which were presented to you. And we look forward to watching all of those, not just Eddie and Gallium-Band, to see how all the others actually perform in the years to come, and they'll be on the videos as well in years to come, telling about how they managed to develop their business from the time that they made this presentation. I know Enterprise Ireland remains very, very active and busy in supporting all of these companies and encouraging many others who may be watching that maybe next year or the year after will be your opportunity to be part of the 12, making the pitch to try and raise the additional funding which is so important to living up to your ambitions and aspirations. So that's it for today. Thank you to everybody who has been involved in today's production. And whether it's like this next year or we're back in a venue, we look forward to talking to you again during 2021. Very goodbye to you now.